My name's Steve McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Good morning again. This is Jonathan Small, host and producer of Face to Face. Face to Face is a show that's broadcast every single week at AccessTV.org studios in downtown Hartford. Face to Face is a show that's designed to ask my guests the hard questions and give you, the viewers, the answers and information that you deserve to know. This morning, I'm doing a special edition of Face to Face. I was just here Monday and back here again today, Wednesday. And we're going to talk about this up and coming mayoral election here in the capital city of Hartford. We're going to talk about what is the agenda, what is the plan. And I have a very unique, special, lifelong resident of the capital city. He is a member of the Hartford Democratic Town Committee. He is a community activist. He's a retired Hartford firefighter, no other than Steve Harris. Good morning, Steve. How you doing?
Good, Jonathan. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fine. And you? I'm glad that you was able to come down here this morning on short notice. I appreciate that a lot.
Glad to be a guest.
Okay. Steve, why, first of all, did you personally endorse candidate Luke Bronin for mayor of Hartford?
I endorsed Luke because Luke has the same vision for the city that I have. Mm-hmm. And I'm a simple person. Mm-hmm. You know, as a person that grew up in this city, the one thing that I believe is that government should work for everybody.
Right.
Not just the privileged, not just those who raise their voices when others may say silent. Mm-hmm. And I think that in talking with Luke and getting to know Luke, Luke's passion for citizen engagement was very important to me. Mm-hmm. Because I truly believe that citizens should be engaged in their government.
Yeah.
His willingness to come out, bring government to people, mm-hmm. was important to me, because it's in some cases it's difficult for many of our residents to get to City Hall, mm-hmm. for council meetings or committee meetings. Luke's idea of bringing government to the people, mm-hmm. having town hall meetings, I think it's really, really important, particularly when we talk about the transparency of government.
Yes.
For those who may not know, sometimes you can go down to a city council meeting and you may see 40, 50 items on the agenda, mm-hmm. but they may pass 25 or 30 of those by consent. So you never really have any real debate or action on those because they've already been decided on. Mm-hmm. So citizens leave City Hall sometimes wondering what happened. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that you look your elected officials in the eye, mm-hmm. and ask them questions.
Right. So Luke Bronin didn't really have to sell you on his a belief that he is the best person to become mayor of Hartford?
No, he had to sell me.
He had to sell you on it?
No. There's no gimmies.
All right.
You know, there's no gimmies. And I think that's been part of the problem, mm-hmm. particularly in North Hartford. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we don't ask those questions. We just take for granted what the person said they're going to do. Mm-hmm. I think that folks need to question, mm-hmm. people they're going to entrust to make decisions for them. And as I used to say, I was on city council.
Yes, you are.
And I used to tell people, I said, I used to lay awake at night saying to myself, okay, I got to get in here and I got to make a decision on this item. Mm-hmm. This item is going to has the ability to affect people's lives.
Yes.
And, I used to marvel. I was down there for a couple of years. And I used to say, I would have thought that I would see more people, particularly from my community,
right,
come down and talk about what was going on with them. Mm-hmm. When I realized that wasn't happening, people used to say to me, every day we see that you're in the Raging Cajun. Mm-hmm. I said, yeah, that's where my office is.
Yes.
Because people were more inclined to come to the Raging Cajun and see me and talk about issues that were important to them, mm-hmm. but didn't want to come to City Hall. Mm-hmm. City Hall can be intimidating to some folks. But again, I just think that the thing that attracted me to Luke, after we've had some long conversations, and I asked him some questions about some things, and I explained to him that until we figure out how to put people to work in Hartford, mm-hmm. we're going to continually have a problem. And he talked about his academy for young people, putting young people to work year round, not just in summer jobs. As soon as the summer was over, it was done. That was very appealing to me because, as you know, I mean, we ride around our streets and what do you see? You see young people and young men idle. They're not idle because they want to be. They're idle because there's nothing out here for them to do. There's no jobs. If they are, they're not hearing about them. So, you know, Luke has talked about some things that are, to me, are basic but important. Customer service. I talked about our street light. I mean, the guy was door knocking on Cleveland Avenue. He said to me, he said, you know, it's hard to make a left turn into Cleveland Avenue, even with the light. I said, yeah, I asked for a left turn arrow there at one point. So when somebody could see the little things, then it makes it an easier sell for me that they can do the bigger things. Because if you can't take care, if you don't notice the little things, it's like iQuilt. You know, I've heard this iQuilt, livable, sustainable neighborhoods. On our corner, Cleveland Avenue and Hampton Street, we got an abandoned building, 2.5, that's usually in disrepair. And we just had a fire. Now we got another building on the other corner. So when we talk about livable, sustainable neighborhoods, I've been on Cleveland Avenue for about 65 years. Never used to look like that. You know, the broken window theory? That's what I'm concerned with. And I've approached the city about one of those buildings. And, you know, they said, well, we turned it over to L&I, we turned it over to this one. I said, but the building's still there in disrepair. We shouldn't have to live like that.
Well, Steve, I know you're very concerned, not just with your particular street, but you're concerned with the whole city, because that's why you became that's why you're still a lifelong resident, you know, but everybody got to be concerned directly with their own backyard. You're very familiar with the entire city. It's not just one street, though. I mean, if you go on Barber Street, if somebody left Hartford 30 years ago and they saw the same old Snyder abandoned supermarket, it's still abandoned 30 years later. And you go, that's just one example. I mean, there's many other examples that, you know, give you that same duplication. You said Luke had to somewhat, you know, sell you that he is the best candidate to become mayor. You just didn't overwhelm you just like that. What do you think is the agenda now that particularly the north end of Hartford is looking for if Luke Bronin is able to become mayor of Hartford?
Well, you know, one of the things that he's very passionate about is doing something with these blighted buildings. I mean, and I tell people, I say, you know, I've seen people drive down the street in certain neighborhoods, just they see trash, they roll down their windows, they add to the trash. Blight. His whole theme about you shouldn't have to win a lottery for your child to get a good education. I think that's really important to me. That's really, really important to me. My third daughter was at Barber School and Project Concern. I remember what teacher said, you know, your child is very bright. We want to get her in Project Concern and send out, forget what they was going to send. I said, no. I said, I pay taxes here in the city of Hartford. C.A. Barber School educated me. You're going to educate my children. You're going to educate my children. But I also told them that I'm going to be involved in my children's education. This is my phone number. This is my wife's phone number. If something happens, we want to know about it immediately. We were involved in the PTA. I still believe, and I believe like Luke, you shouldn't have to win a lottery in Hartford for your children to get a good education.
Parental involvement is very important.
Key. And it's important. The other thing that's important here, Jonathan, is that, and I don't think a lot of people realize that, and I just mentioned this because I think this adds to the problem, that we have a large literacy problem. We have illiteracy problem. We have functional illiterates, and I don't see that demeaningly because these people get up, go to work, they have driver's license, but their skills in terms of schooling is minimal. So when some children come home with homework, parents can't help it because they don't know themselves. Luke and I talked, and I said, listen, Luke, back in the day, I said, I remember when neighborhood schools were open at 4:30, 5 o'clock, night gym. I said, why can't we have citizens academies in those schools? So parents who know that they need a little more skill, maybe in reading or math, can come. Like we used to go to night gym. And there'd be a teacher there, somebody that can help them with that. Nobody wants to be illiterate for the sake of being illiterate. And what we all want to do is, your parents probably said to you, my parents said to me, we want you to have a better life than we had.
Oh yeah, that's common.
That's common.
Right.
Right. So my thing is that, and as Luke says, that we need to find ways to get parents involved with their children's schooling. And we've talked at length about that. But his whole thing about you shouldn't have to win a lottery for your child to get a good education in Hartford. I agree with 100%.
Well, you made some very good points about parents being involved with their children and parents being able to re-educate themselves to become a better parent and become a better individual. But let me get to Luke Bronin. I'm not asking you directly to speak for him. Hopefully, yeah, he got to make his own, answers, but I just want to get your opinion. He recently, I guess, won some lottery his own self to have his 2 children or his 3 or how many children be educated in West Hartford. Does that somewhat concern you that he is not willing to educate his children directly in Hartford, where he wants to become a mayor of?
Truthfully, no.
It doesn't bother you?
It doesn't bother me, because you know what I know about being a parent? You only have one shot at being a good parent. You only have one shot of getting your kids a good education. Just as I said, I made a decision to keep my child here when it was when I could have sent her through Project Concern out of the city. I said no. And again, I've read, and I haven't talked to Luke about that, because that to me is a parent's decision. That's a decision for him and his wife. And
but you don't think it sends any image to the residents that, here's the person that wants to become mayor and he's focusing and advocating for a better Hartford education, but yet he's not willing to put his own children in the Hartford public school system?
That may concern some residents. But again, as a parent, and when you look at, let's be honest here, Hartford schools don't have a very good reputation.
Right.
Not all, but some. Some don't have a very good reputation. And I believe that he was trying to get, one of his kids was in the Hartford school system. The other kid is going to school. He tried to keep them together.
Yes.
But one couldn't go. One had to go someplace else, and he wanted to keep his kids together. I can see where that may be concerning for folks, but to be very honest with you, as a parent, I think we make decisions that we think are best for our children. And I think, and again, I know Luke's passion for education is strong. And he sold me on the fact that, again, you shouldn't have to win a lottery in Hartford to give your kids a good education. So I think he's going to be a strong advocate in terms of our schools kind of stepping up and improving a little bit and giving them the resources that they're going to need in order to improve. But again, you have to ask him that.
I will ask him that if I'm given the
certainly can't speak.
I just want to get your opinion as a resident of the city.
I mean, again,
how you felt about that situation.
I feel strongly about department heads living here. Do all department heads live here? No. I feel strongly about people who work for the city to live in the city. To spend those payroll dollars that come from our tax dollars here in the city of Hartford. Does that happen? No. So there's a lot of things.
Are you in favor of residency?
Most certainly.
Requirement?
Most certainly.
Workers?
Most certainly. Most certainly. Because if you live in a city, you tend to spend your money where you live. Hartford doesn't pay pauper wages. And I'm speaking as a person that worked for the city.
Right.
We pay pretty good. And my thing is, look, you can live wherever you want to live.
Right.
But if I had my way, there would be a residency requirement. And I'm not telling you that you have to live here, but if you didn't live here, you couldn't work here.
Right. So that's something that you would definitely willing to advocate if given the opportunity.
Without question. Without question, because the one thing that I see lacking in this city is a real viable, strong middle class. City of Hartford pays middle class wages.
Yes.
There are people paying their property taxes from city paychecks in other towns.
Well, one thing you mentioned is that we see a lot of high unemployment rates for many able-bodied men and women throughout the city of Hartford. Is it a scenario that many residents are just not able or qualified to get the jobs, or they're not aware of the jobs? They don't understand the whole process? Because how can this problem at some point get fixed with the next agenda, or excuse me, with the next administration, if somehow we don't understand why many residents, or we're not willing to really step up to the plate and try to come up with a plan to see if residents can get some of these jobs that currently exist in the city?
I'll use my own self as an example. I left Hartford in 1966 and went into the military.
Yes.
Went to Vietnam, came home, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. Actually, I intended to be a career soldier. The only reason I didn't become a career soldier was I found out they was going to send me back to Vietnam.
Right.
And I said, no, I did that one time, and I was lucky to get out of there.
Yes.
That time. I'm not doing this a second time.
Right.
And I remember my first sergeant said to me, he said, Sergeant Harris, he said, you know, you're getting out. This is the advice I'm going to give you. When you go home, apply for the police department, fire department, and post office.
Okay.
He said, because if you get one of those 3 jobs, you'll always have a good job.
Right.
Be able to take care of yourself and your family. I had never given either one of those places a thought. Actually, I had worked a little while at Pratt & Whitney before I went into the military. When I came home, I worked there a little while I put these applications in. Well, I put applications into the police, fire, and the post office. Thank God the fire department called me first, and that's where I wound up. The day I walked into Ladder 4 at 25 Blue Hills Avenue, I didn't know a darn thing about putting out a fire.
Oh, okay.
Didn't know nothing. Walked in there. The captain of the house, the company I was going to work for, his name was Captain McCormick, said to me, Proby, you're going to be on probation for 1 year. Everywhere I go, you go.
Right.
I don't ever want to see you watching TV. I want you learning this apparatus. If there's one thing that I know for sure is that when people talk about qualifications, well, this person doesn't have this qualification. I said, well, you know, most people learn by doing.
Yes.
See, I believe in on the job training because that's how I learned how to be a firefighter. I think that we put too much emphasis on how high we score on tests. And I understand that there has to be a litmus test that you have to kind of get to know what a person's knowledge base is. But I think we put too much emphasis on that.
Yes.
I think that you can take a person like me that had no experience in firefighting, put me in that situation with a trainer, with on-the-job training, and I don't think I'm above. I think I'm just an average kind of guy.
Right.
And there's a bunch of average kind of guys out here that could do the same thing if given the opportunity. And I just use my example in the fire department. We don't do enough on-the-job training anymore. Everything is test-based.
Yes.
And I just don't think you always get the best candidate.
Steve, we're up on our first break. We're going to come back. I know it went kind of fast. Yeah, real quick. But we have a second part of the show that we're going to come back to. We're going to talk about some more issues, some more gender-related issues. Currently, if the candidate Luke Bronin is to become mayor in November the 3rd, and here in Hartford, Connecticut, we would like to find out, in your opinion, what should be some of the agendas that he needs to implement and what's best for the entire city of Hartford to move forward towards. So I'm enjoying you being very frank and honest about how you feel about many issues. And we're going to come right back very shortly with part 2 of Face to Face. All right. Good morning again. This is Jonathan Small. I'm doing a special edition of Face to Face this morning with my guest, a lifelong Hartford resident. He is a former Hartford firefighter, came up to ranks to become captain. He is a member of the Hartford Democratic Town Committee, and he is a community activist, community resident, no other than Steve Harris. And we'll be right back very shortly.
CT Gospel, in association with Trinity on Main, proudly presents Gospel Quartet Extravaganza, Saturday, October the 10th, featuring the Spiritual Souls, Brothers That Love the Lord, Clarence Atkinson, the New Prodigal Sons, Ephesians, the Gospel Express Singers. Also from Waterbury, Fantastic Voices of Joy. From New Haven, Voices of Zion. For more information or tickets, call 860-890-5571.
These are the monsters of the road. Ever drive alongside a tractor trailer in the rain? Scary. You're hoping they don't change lanes. Now they see you, now they don't. This monster can crush you in an instant. They may be insured for millions, but you're not thinking of that in a dangerous situation. I'm Attorney Jeffrey Dresden. Have an accident, you know what to do. Because this is what we do. 24/7, 11/22.
Morning again. This is Jonathan Small. I'm hosting Face to Face, doing a special edition this morning with my guests, Hartford lifelong resident, member of the Hartford Democratic Town Committee, no other than Steve Harris. And we're going to get right back into our conversation. Well, Steve, I've talked in the first part about exactly what should be the agenda if Luke Bronin is to become mayor of Hartford, on his side. Mm-hmm. But there's also a side of the residents and people that live in the city of Hartford got to be willing to do their part. You mentioned earlier about, sometimes many residents do not like to come down to City Hall. They don't like to go to the state capitol or the LOB building. One time there was a suggestion that somebody told me that if Hartford had like a satellite office within the community and you have a paid worker from the community that works there, and then that person could work with people in the community that they, interact with throughout the day. And then the people that work for the satellite office, they can take somewhat of the agenda of the residents of Hartford to City Hall, to the LOB building, to the state capitol. And then, it kind of cuts that difficulty that residents feel like they don't want to come down to the capitol or the LOB building, but they will at times have to come down. But I think if you put a person in the community who is sincere and get a paid, get a paid income and have that situational facility located in the neighborhoods where people live at, do you think that's a good idea that, Luke Bronin should be looking at possibly?
I think it's a great idea. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, that was done.
Okay.
At one point, that building at the corner of Barber and Western Street, the one that's boarded up. There used to be a city satellite office there. There was a representative from every city agency in that building. As a matter of fact, Wilson Gator, who became the first black city manager for the city of Hartford,
yes,
he ran that particular satellite office there. So no, that's a great idea, and that had been done. Now, why it isn't being done now, I don't know. But obviously, it certainly helped in the sense that people had basically a city satellite office right in the neighborhood that they could get to and from easily.
Yes.
So it's not a new novel idea. It's an idea that I thought, and I think it's a great idea because it was done before and it worked.
Okay.
I remember in my early years on the fire department, we set up a little office there, did inspections, fire inspections and things like that. So I do think that sometimes we have to think out of the box.
Yeah.
Everybody shouldn't be coming to the 550 Main Street to do their business because we're coming from all over the city. And like you said, we used to have a satellite office in each of the major neighborhoods, the North End, South End. I believe there was even one in the West End that did exactly that. So that is not something that can't be done because it was done before.
Well, to be perfectly honest, position that the mayor will have as the chief executive officer, he has a tremendous influence to be able to create some type of new resources within the city. And I think at some point, maybe people in the community would have to be sitting down, holding a town hall meeting and giving their views on what they really feel is needed for the city. If not before the election, definitely sometime after the November election. Because the history here in Hartford is that we've had administrations in the past make a lot of promises, get elected, do something totally different than what they said that they were going to do before the election. And then we've also had this kind of division within our city. Like when Eddie Perez became mayor, people said everything was going to Park Street. What's going on Albany Avenue? Some people would say when Mayor Pedro Segura was elected, he hired a lot of Spanish people. But what about, African-American people? So there's somewhat of this division within our city that some people within the city are trying to get what they can get for themselves, but not really look out for the best interest of the whole city. So you obviously, I believe, is well aware that we got to do something totally different to help Hartford, particularly starting with the North End, be a much better part of the city. But we can't be so divided that we're just trying to grab something and forget about people that's left out or left behind. Do you feel like Luke Bronin is really committed and sincere for the whole entire city?
Without question. He has said that one of the things that he's going to do is every month he's going to hold a town hall meeting in each neighborhood. So folks don't have to go to City Hall to see the mayor.
Right.
They can come to the community center or the church or wherever he's going to hold these meetings in the various sections of the city. And I think it's really, I believe in transparency. And I think that, to your point, if you can't, until you know better, you don't do better.
Right.
You may think you're doing a great job. You may think you're doing a great job, right? Until you go out and folks say, you know what, it's okay, but if you did this, it could be better.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a person that isn't offended when somebody makes a suggestion, and you kind of go back and you analyze, you say, you know what, that may work. But if you never go out to hear people, see, government in Hartford has become very insular. They kind of stay in the bunker, and they talk to each other. So you can't talk to. You and I could have a discussion all day long about what's wrong or what's right. And try to make decisions for folks. And try and make a decision only to get out there. Somebody say, Jonathan, what the heck was you and Steve thinking about when y'all did this? Because if you had asked me, I would have told you about this. So I think, to your point, and like I said, I've talked to Luke at great length about this. I said, part of our problem, why people don't trust government, because they never know what government is doing. And when they do make a decision, I've always said, when I was on council, the one thing I used to really agonize over is I knew that every time I would vote for something, that I was affecting people's lives. So I wanted to, I tried to do the best I could to get as much information on whatever that particular topic was. I would talk to people. See, I'm not afraid to pick up the phone because I know I'm not the smartest apple in the barrel. So I don't mind calling a Jonathan and say, Jonathan, what do you think about this? But, again, sometimes we become, when I say we, I'm talking about elected officials, become so embattled, because you're making decisions all the time. And every time you make a decision, so many people think you're great. The other folks think you're crazy as heck. So sometimes you just kind of get into your bunk and you really don't want to go out. Luke has made it very clear. As a matter of fact, we were door knocking at Chappelle, and he said, look at this center. He says, I tell you that I'm going to be in your center. If I get elected, you're going to see me 3-4 times a year and talk about issues that are important to you. And when you don't see me, it's because I'm going to be in somebody else's neighborhood doing the same thing. And again, I think that citizen participation is vital, particularly in a city like Hartford. Why? Because we have people who mean well, making decisions, but aren't hitting the mark with them. And unless you tell them that, as my grandmother used to say, until you know better, you don't do better. But we can't stay home. We have a tendency to want to send Jonathan or Stan or Steve down to talk about, and I don't mind going. But our message would be a lot stronger if all of us went down and talked on that. And that's what government has. Government has to understand that when you stop working for our well-being, then we start working to get rid of your behind.
Well, Steve, I think in certain times, it's not all the time, but, a couple of months ago, maybe last month, there was a young lady killed that was a resident on Barber Street. And I saw at that particular rally, one of the largest turnouts that I've ever seen for a rally that Reverend Henry Brown usually, holds whenever somebody gets killed. And it wasn't just people directly in that area. It was a lot of people throughout the city and even out that don't even live in Hartford that came. So there are certain times when I think the people and the residents will step up to the plate and show some, commitment and support to take it to the next level, at least do one level doing the legwork. Last week, it was stated in the Hartford Current that Luke Bronin basically won the primary with the bulk of the North End's votes. He had the most votes coming from the North End more than any other part of the city. So it's like now the North End of Hartford did to some degree their part. I mean, they voted, it wasn't the highest percentage of voters, but it was certainly, a little bit better than the last time. And they directly, I feel, impacted the election. Without question. So at some point, Luke has to look at that part of the city and say, okay, I got to be the mayor for the entire city of Hartford. There's no doubt about it. But here's the part that if politicians always go by the numbers, the numbers indicates that the North End was the voting block that had the most impact on him being mayor. You as a resident of the North End of Hartford, do you feel this time that the North End of Hartford is really going to get some tremendous changes?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And this may give you something to brag about. Our district,
yes,
24 was the highest voting district in the city.
Oh, that's good to know.
That's what I'm talking about.
I didn't even know that.
That's what I'm saying. When we become a participating voter base,
yes,
then these kinds of things happen. When these kinds of things happen, that raises our voices. That raises our profile. Mm-hmm. See, people can know, because people, I think, used to take North Hartford for granted. Number one, they said, well, okay, they Democrats, they'll vote Democratic anyway.
Right.
That really doesn't fly anymore. Or, they don't really come out in any numbers. Mm-hmm. We have to change that dynamic. In our district, we're changing that dynamic because we get people involved. Mm-hmm. We get people involved. I think that Luke and I said this to Luke, I said, Luke, let me tell you something. I said, this is how I see this race playing out. Mm-hmm. I said, the mayor's going to win the majority of Latino votes.
Right.
I said, you're going to win the majority of white votes. Mm-hmm. I said, this election hinges on Black folks turning out in this city. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened. And they turned out because the message that Luke was delivering resonated. Mm-hmm. Us, we don't come out just because you look good.
Right. They had felt something about
that's what I'm saying.
Was worth
some folks said, well, he was sending something every week. He's on TV. No, folks didn't come out because they got something every week in the mail or they saw him on TV. They came out because something he said resonated with us.
Mm-hmm. And if he becomes elected mayor, then the residents got to hold him accountable. They got to hold you accountable to represent us in the neighborhood.
Our council.
Our council. We have a council too.
And let me tell you something about this council. That's a young council. Mm-hmm. And listen, I'm happy about that because I think young people, and I say this to young people all the time, you got to have a seat at the table. Mm-hmm. But it ain't going to be given to you.
Yes.
You got to fight your way to that table. Mm-hmm. You have to fight your way to that table. I don't want to see pictures of your socks on my Facebook page. Yeah. I want to see you talking about issues that impact our community, that impact this city. Mm-hmm. So again, I for one, and listen, I've been at this a long time, Jonathan.
Right.
I for one, and folks that know me know that you can't sell me. Mm-hmm. Know that I take people at their word. Mm-hmm. Wilson Gator once said, everybody's a lady and gentleman until they prove themselves otherwise. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe that. I approach people when they tell me something, I take them at their word, but I verify. Mm-hmm. But I don't like to prejudge people.
Right.
My thing is I'm going to give you the opportunity. Mm-hmm. Now you prove me wrong. Mm-hmm. I think that Luke and this young council are going to bring a dynamic to Hartford that we've not seen in a long time. Mm-hmm. I think we're going back to customer service. Mm-hmm. How I feel? I just paid almost $5,000 in property taxes.
Right.
And when you walk into an agency, every time I walk into the city to pay into the tax office, you get the feeling that you almost bothering people.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, man. You know how hard this is for me to give you this money?
Yes, $5,000. That's
a lot of this is a lot of cheddar. Mm-hmm. And at least smile at me and say thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
So again, I don't ask for much. I want service. Mm-hmm. The traffic light was the end for me. Mm-hmm. Now people may say, well, that's kind of a minor thing. No, that's not a minor thing. If you can't change a traffic light in a timely manner, how can you make me believe that you can do bigger and better things for this city that I'm living in? And no matter what you do, every year I got to give you almost 5 G's.
Yes.
So I want something for it.
Yeah, you deserve the services when you are taxpaying.
I'm not asking for anything less than anybody. I'm not asking for anything more than anybody else. I just want, I want service.
Services.
All citizens should want service. I want to be, I don't want to be made to feel because I live someplace, in this particular instance in North Hartford, that my vote doesn't matter as a citizen. My voice doesn't matter as a citizen. I want somebody to take me as serious as you're going to take folks that live on Wesley Terrace, Scarborough Street, Terry Road, in the West End. because I feel I'm just as important as they are. I feel like my neighbors are just as important as they are. And that's not knocking those folks. I'm just saying that we have a tendency for those who we feel have the juice generally get the biggest piece. They're the ones that generally get the services right away. I mean, when it was snowing, when we was having them snowstorms.
Yes.
I mean, God almighty, man. You live on Cleveland Avenue.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So this is what I'm talking about. I want my snow to get plowed the same time Westerly Terrace and Terry Road get their stuff plowed. Now I'm a reasonable person, and I understand that, you know, some things take time.
Right.
But like I said, that traffic light was the end for me. 2 years.
Well, Steve, I think first of all, it's kind of disheartening that a small city like Hartford can be so divided between different areas and somewhat really neglected. And, you know, I know we have issues all throughout the city. I mean, everybody's not living high on the hog, but certainly if you look at the history of Hartford from the riots starting in the north end of Hartford, the same similarities of problems of high unemployment, a lot of public safety issues, a lot of disinvestment. I mean, Mayor Pedro Segura can say differently, but I think you as a resident in the north end of Hartford, you see it directly, and you don't just drive around from year after year and see the same bleak picture just by accident. I mean, it has to be somewhat some structure, some designs, something that's keeping one or many parts of the city at the low end of the social economic scale, and maybe a few other areas that's somewhat of a better end. But at some point, I feel personally, the residents got to know exactly what they need and want and demand. And it has to be somewhat of this linkage to city government, the city council, like you mentioned, city mayor, to realize that some things definitely have to change, because we can't keep going decade after decade and looking at the same negativities and just not seeing any direct changes. So again, you personally believe that we have the right person that could become mayor in Hartford come November the 3rd with Luke Bronin. And you feel that with the commitment of the residents working, that there's possibly that the north end of Hartford in particular could start to really get some improvements.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to help lead that charge.
Right.
I mean, listen, I have 4 grandsons who are here.
Okay.
I have 3 daughters who are here. One left to go to Virginia because she said, I can't take this no more.
Right. Excuse me. What was it that she couldn't take? Why she left to go to Virginia?
Just you know, housing, the kind of disrepair of the city, the kind of always this grind to get what she felt that as, you know, as an adult, you know, she should be able to get.
Yes.
And you know, it's painful when your children leave you. Some folks may say it ain't as painful, but for me, you know, you know, I do what I do because, again, Cleveland Avenue raised me, and I have no issues about saying that. We were a neighborhood where folks looked out for folks. I remember going next door bringing eggs, because we had chickens back then. That's how old I am. We had chickens in the backyard, and I used to remember going next door bringing eggs to Miss Gordon next door. I just remember being on Cleveland Avenue and everybody looked out for everybody, you know. And I think that Hartford is a small enough city with neighbors. We should know everybody. Every neighbor should know their neighbor.
Right.
I'm amazed at how many people don't know each other in this town. I'm amazed at how we live next door to each other and we don't even speak to each other.
Yes. I'm
amazed at that. I'm amazed at that. So I kind of look at that and I say, that's part of our problem. You know, we all talk about divide and conquer. We've heard that. Divide and conquer, right? You hear it every time you go to a meeting, divide and conquer. We need to look inward at that. We spend more time knocking each other than working out what our problems are.
Right.
And I'm here to tell you, because I don't have as many days in front of me as I have behind me. And I know that. But every time I look at my grandsons, my youngest is 17, my oldest is 25, I worry about them. I worry about this propensity of young black men being shot down in the street.
Mm-hmm.
And it ain't always by the police now.
Right.
You know,
that's true.
We got what, 24, 25, what do we got? 27.
26, I believe.
26 homicides. And not one of them is a police officer shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, you know, those are the things that I worry about. Then I ask myself, well, why is this happening?
Mm-hmm.
Then I say to myself, well, I was a young man and, you know, I got a family, or I got children, and I don't have a job. What would I be doing? What would I be doing? See, because it's just easy to say, well, you know, it's just, I don't personally think that folks see drug dealing as an occupation that they strive to be.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I'm not making excuses, because I don't, you know, I just think that the terror that they're inflicting on our city, and particularly our neighborhoods in particular, where our people are afraid to come out. You know, we have such a lousy reputation now in this state. You know, when people say Hartford, they say, y'all got like 30 homicides. It's always more than the actual number. But I mean, that's how they acquaint us. And I had this discussion with somebody the other day. I said, let me tell you something. The problem with society is we paint with a broad brush. So you spend so much time concentrating on the 20% of the knuckleheads that are creating chaos out here,
right,
that you don't pay any attention to the 80% of the population that gets up every day and tries to do the right thing.
Right. That's true.
You know, there's another Hartford that you'll never know, because you're so busy looking at this 20% that you don't pay attention to the 80%. And you define a whole city, a whole neighborhood by 20% versus the 80%. So I say this, if folks who are listening, you have to become an advocate for yourself and your family. You do. If you can, and hear me when I tell you this, decisions in the city, people talk about the mayor and the council. People call me and say, well, you know, I went down to the meeting and they only gave us two minutes to talk. I said, because you went to the wrong meeting. You went to the council meeting.
Right.
If you got an issue with police or fire or public safety, find out when the public safety committee meets. Because that committee meets before the council meeting. Fine. Now you want to talk for a half hour about something, that's where you go. That's where you bring your neighbors. You go to the committee meeting. You let your voices be heard there. Because if you wait to the day of a council meeting and you sign up, I think they give you a minute at the podium. You can't do it at a minute at the podium. You have to do it in a particular committee that's affecting your quality of life, whether it be DPW, maybe your garbage ain't getting picked up. You don't go to a council meeting and tell them that. You go to the committee meeting, the Public Works Committee meeting, and you tell them that. So
gotta be totally educated on, you know, the issues in city government, and you know what exactly needs to be done. We're out of time. I really, again, appreciate you coming down here. A very informative show. I guess I wish you the luck working with Luke Bronin.
Wish us the luck.
Wish us the luck. Okay, all right. So we all have to work together.
Without question.
And hopefully I can have Luke Bronin on as a guest either before November 3rd election or after the election.
I think all you have to do is just call a campaign.
I've done that. But I want this to be on record that I want him on. That's why
I'll sit here and say he should be here.
Yes. Okay.
I'll sit here and say he should be here. I just think I just think in the end, we won't know what's going to happen till it happens.
Right.
But we can certainly have some input and help guide what happens. If you don't step up, then somebody else will go do the guiding for you.
Exactly. All right.
Right.
Pleasure to have you down here this morning,
Pleasure
Steve,
here,
and keep up the good work that you're doing.
Thank you. You keep doing this, man.
All
it's
right.
important.
This is Jonathan Small. I'm going to again give a closing commentary like I did this past Monday, maybe a new trend. You know, there's a lot of issues that consist out here in the capital city of Hartford, the good and the bad. Sometimes people are apathetic. They don't have faith. They think it's the same old system that's going to do the same old thing again. So why should I waste my time getting involved? Why should I vote? Why should I participate in any particular meeting? But I think at some point you always have to do something to try to make your life and your family life better. And there has to be ways. I mean, this network here, accesstv.org, is a tremendous voice in the community. I usually try to have this show designed on a statewide level. Time to time, I will do local issues. I've done international issues. But the bottom line is this network is a tremendous voice and asset, and it needs to be funded, to be perfectly honest. But that's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother agenda. But again, I'm supposed to see you October the 5th as my new schedule start for face-to-face after the producers break. But it's possible anything could come up before October the 5th where you might end up seeing me again, either here on face-to-face or All About You. But if that's not the case, to the people out there and our viewers audience, have a very peaceful day. Thank you.